I would not be surprised if well over 90% of all IRA to Roth IRA conversions take place in the month of December. And here's why. There's no do-overs with this conversion. It used to be there were ways to do do-overs. If you're like, I decided I didn't want to do that. I want to undo that conversion. But the government doesn't let you do it anymore. So the reason people wait till December is because you have a lot more tax information at that standpoint. And you want to know what your tax situation is so you know at what rate you're going to have to pay taxes on. Are you going to be in the 10% bracket, the 12% bracket, or where you're going to be? It really does matter. So December is go time for doing conversions. Now, why do people do these conversions? There's a couple reasons, right? And the one you want to be in is you're filling up low tax brackets. You could argue if you want to be in a high tax bracket, right? That's a nice problem to have. But essentially, it makes a lot of financial sense when you can fill up the 10% tax bracket and the 12% tax bracket. So that's the good reason that you do it. And I'll come back to that in a minute. The other reason people do it is they didn't plan ahead and they find themselves in a situation where in retirement or close to retirement where too much of their money is going to be in a regular IRA or a regular 401k, and then all of the distributions they take out are going to be taxable, and they don't want to be in that situation. So they'll do a Roth, they'll do a conversion to a Roth, even if they're in some of the higher tax brackets. So one thing to think about is planning ahead so that you have money in a regular IRA, you have some of your money in a Roth IRA, you have some of your money in what's pay-as-you-go account, just like your regular bank account, right? So I call it the 3-bucket strategy. You want to have money in all 3 of those buckets so you can kind of control your tax bracket. The other thing that wakes people up in retirement, and you're in a much better situation if you're thinking about this, even if you're 65, you still have time. Where people get nervous with their regular IRAs is as they start looking at what are my required minimum distributions going to be. The government doesn't let you keep that money in your IRA until you pass away. At some point they say you have to start taking money out of this account. And so a lot of times people will do these regular IRAs to Roth IRA conversions because Roth IRAs do not have required minimum distributions, and the person doesn't want the government telling them when to take their money out. They want to say, I want to do it when I do it, right? And that is something that you can be thinking about today and thinking, required minimum distributions happen at different age, in your 70s, depending. It's getting complicated now. It used to be quite simple, but it's complicated with the Secure Act 2.0. But look at what your required minimum distributions is. I'll put a link in the show notes so you can find it. But even if you're 65, a lot of people are going to have close to 10 years until they need to start making required minimum distributions. So you can start putting, you can put money, if you have earned income. There are rules, so what you can put into a regular and a Roth IRA, but you can start putting some of your money into a Roth IRA now, even if you're 60 or 65, as long as you comply with those rules, and you qualify to put money in. And the other thing you can do is you can do a little bit of a conversion at a time, which regardless of your age is what most people are better off doing, is not doing that conversion all at once, but doing it over time, right? So that you can do that conversion at low tax brackets, which gets me to this filling up of your tax brackets that I mentioned. And that's a term that financial advisors and accountants use. There's 7 tax brackets in the United States, and the 2 lowest, well, there's 0 really, 0 and then to 10% and then to 12%. Those are generally, for most people, fairly low tax rates, and you want to take advantage of that. So if you have extra room where you could have additional ordinary income and stay in the 10 or 12% tax bracket, you want to fill those up and take advantage of them. So in December, you have a pretty good idea of what your taxable income is going to be, and you can pencil it out if you haven't done it already, and you could say, hey, you know what, we could have $10,000 more of taxable income, and so you could do that conversion and take advantage of that low 10% or 12% tax bracket and take advantage of that and pay that low tax rate. And then that's money that later the government cannot force you to have a required minimum distribution off of, because Roth IRAs do not have minimum required minimum distributions. Interestingly, in 2023, there are required minimum distributions on Roth 401ks, but that was really an oversight when they put the rule together about the Roth 401ks. And in 2024, that's going to change, where there are no required minimum distributions. Now, I do want to mention, none of this is financial advice. None of this is tax advice. I am not an accountant. I'm a fee-only financial advisor. So, you know, all of this from the tax standpoint, check with your own accountant, but I want to put these types of things on your radar screen, particularly the 3-bucket strategy and the idea of filling up your low tax brackets, because the Roth is a super powerful thing. I've got another video where I talk about how you can put a third of your money, a third more money in a Roth IRA than a regular IRA, and it's really, the essence of that is you can put a third more in, because if you put $10,000 into a regular IRA, really the government owns a third of that. Where if you put $10,000 into a Roth IRA, you know what, the government doesn't own any of that. All that money is yours. So the Roth is a really powerful tool, but again, you want to have those 3 buckets. And this is why I think it makes sense, you know, for you to be watching YouTube videos like this, to have this on your radar screen, to maybe, if you're working with an accountant, if you're working with a fee-only financial advisor, to ask them and to learn more. And that's really the purpose of my channel, is to prepare people so that they can retire early if they want, and to avoid making mistakes that, you know, oftentimes people wait until they're 60 or 65 to talk to an accountant, to think about retirement. And it's a lot harder to reverse things like, gee, all of my money's in a regular IRA or a regular 401k. And how do I undo that? It's a lot easier to do that the earlier you plan. But again, as I said, even if you're 65 years old, required minimum distributions aren't going to kick in until, depending on your age, sometime in your 70s. So you still have time. All right, so enough about this. If you want to learn more about Roth IRAs, I encourage you to watch this video up here. I'll see you in there. Thanks for watching this one. Bye-bye.